Hey everyone, I'm the Entertainment Geek and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be going over all the movies I've watched during the month of April. This month I've watched a wide variety of movies stemming from one of the best bowling movies ever made, a couple of spoof movies, and even a few musicals. But before we get into it, if you enjoy today's video, please go ahead and like and subscribe and comment down below if you agree, disagree with my opinions, or if you've never seen any of these movies. But yeah, let's get into it. So, to start off, we're going to be doing only one movie in the bad category, and that movie is a little sad because I grew up with this movie, but the movie is Benchwarmers. Now, this isn't as good as I remember. A lot of the jokes did not land for me at all, and nothing was really appealing to me. Nostalgia was the only thing carrying this movie for me, and so yeah, I only gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. But yeah, now we move on to the decent category. Now the first movie in this category is Murder Mystery 2. Now this is somewhat enjoyable, but the title is very misleading. It should have been called Kidnap Mystery because this story did not revolve around a murder at all. But it was overall a decent movie. I mean, some of the jokes, the jokes were just hit or miss. But yeah, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Now the next movie in this category is The Aristocats. Now, I know some people like this movie, and I can see why, but I personally, this movie was just alright. I didn't really find much interesting about it. And granted though, I was writing something, so I was doing something and wasn't paying all my attention to the movie. But the stuff I did pick up, it didn't really stick out to me. And, but I'll give 2 things though. The animation was really good and the kittens are really cute. But that's about it in my opinion. It's a little forgettable, but that's just me. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Now the next movie in this category is U.S. Marshals. Now this movie is basically The Fugitive, but done slightly worse. I'll get into The Fugitive later on in this video, but this movie is basically the same, but not as iconic. And I kind of wish they switched it up a bit, because if they made The Fugitive like actually the villain, that'd be kind of interesting. But I'm just glad to see more Tommy Lee Jones, you know. But I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Tears of the Sun. Now this movie is pretty solid, and Bruce Willis gives a solid performance. The story is pretty good as well, and the action was really well done. My only complaint is that the movie could have made us care for the characters more. If the writing behind them were a little more stronger, it would feel even more emotional. But it's still a good watch. It's on Netflix for those of you interested. Now, the next movie in this category is Two Guns. Now, this movie is just your run-of-the-mill action movie. The only thing that separates it from the others is the well-written dynamic between Denzel and Mark Wahlberg. The story is okay and the action is solid, but nothing really stood out to me other than their dynamic. But yeah, overall it was just an alright movie. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Les Miserables. Hopefully I said that right. This movie kind of felt like a chore to watch, and as much as I respect them for trying something different with the cinematography, it did not go over well in my opinion. Some of the shots look kind of weird and stupid, but that being said, there are some really good songs in here, and Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe were phenomenal. But overall it's a decent musical. The next movie in this category is The Ritual. Now I really enjoyed this movie. Like, the cinematography was really good and the tension and eeriness is executed really well. And I also enjoyed the dynamic setup between the friends, and I just love the beautiful setting of Sweden. The performances were all pretty solid as well, and the look of the monster was really cool, but the pacing is a little all over the place, and some parts could have been executed better. I feel like it had a lot of potential, and some of it landed, but some of it didn't. And I mean, if you tried this movie again, I feel like it would go over even better. But overall, it's a solid thriller. I would recommend it if you have the time. It's on Netflix. But yeah, the next movie in this category is The Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear. Now, this isn't as good as the first one, which I'll get to the first one in a bit, but there are a lot of great jokes in this. Some of the jokes even caught me off guard, especially the beginning sequence. I almost spit my drink out, but my only complaint is that it isn't as iconic as the first or third one, but it's still overall a very funny movie, so I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the last movie that ends the decent category is Wrongfully Accused. Now, I made the mistake of watching this before watching The Fugitive, which again, I'll get to that later, but this is still a fun movie. Leslie Nielsen is of course the best part of the movie. It's overall a funny spoof movie. I definitely recommend this, but watch The Fugitive first, because I'll get to why in a bit. But yeah, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. But now we go to the good category. And speaking of The Fugitive, the first movie in this category is The Fugitive. Now, this is a really good movie. Harrison Ford is phenomenal in this. This is probably the first serious film I've watched of his, and he does a great job. Now, my only complaint is that the story drags out quite a bit, especially in the middle, but it's overall a great movie. Now, there are some scenes that watching Wrongfully Accused before this kind of ruined it for me. But I definitely recommend this movie if you haven't seen it already. It's really good. I gave this 4 stars. But the next movie in this category is Bad Boys. Now, this is a very cheesy movie. It's very over the top, but it's a really solid action movie. The chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence is amazing, and it's the best part of the movie. And it's very entertaining because of how over the top the action is, but it's a Michael Bay film, so I mean, it's kind of expected with all the explosions. But yeah, overall, it's a really good movie. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Now, if you ain't first, you're last. This movie will always be a good, fun time. It's very ridiculous and over the top, but it's still pretty funny. And I just love the cast. The interesting about this movie is that the soundtrack is actually really good. All the songs that they play are bangers. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, please do. You're missing out. But yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Hot Shots. This is another spoof movie, and it's not the last one on this list. This movie is great. I love Carrie Elwes and Charlie Sheen. The comedic timing is spot on for the whole movie, and I laughed quite a bit at this movie. And overall, it's a great spoof movie. It mainly pokes fun at Top Gun, but I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is The Naked Gun. This movie is so iconic and funny. It'll never fail to make me laugh. And of course, Leslie Nielsen is so perfect in this. He was meant for roles like this. While the plot is all over the place, it still has some structure. The comedy is so clever and it never lets up. Every scene has some sort of joke or comedic moment, and they're all funny. Please watch this if you haven't already. It may be really stupid, but it's definitely a good time. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. But yeah, the next movie in this category is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Now this movie mainly just gives off Saturday morning cartoon vibes, and I love it. This is probably Disney's most underrated movies out there. It's really good. Also recommend this movie. Yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Robin Hood, the animated version. This was a delightful watch. I will say that Robin Hood Men in Tights does it better. But that being said, it's still pretty good. I enjoyed all the songs. And I can see why this is considered a childhood favorite, because I would have loved this movie as a kid. It's unfortunate that I didn't watch this when I was younger, but oh well, at least I watched it now, you know? But yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is Moulin Rouge. Now, this movie gives me so many mixed feelings. On one hand, I really enjoyed Ewan McGregor in this. He has such a beautiful voice, and his performance was amazing. But the main problem with this movie is the inconsistency of the tone. The beginning is very wacky and fun, but it switches to a more dramatic dark tone, and while they both do it well, the contrast isn't really good. If they leaned more in either direction, it would make the movie better. In terms of the wackiness, it took me a while to get used to it, because it literally felt like I was on crack. Everything was so fast-paced. But besides that, the songs are really good as well. But they also give me mixed feelings, because most of it, if not all of the songs, aren't original. They take it from pop culture, which on one hand, it's nice to hear them, but I like to hear original songs. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good musical, but there's a lot of stuff that's dragging it down, because I was so indecisive of giving it 3.5, but Ewan McGregor barely made this a 4-star movie. But yeah, the next movie in this category is War of the Worlds. Now this movie is really good. The thing that they do perfectly is the building of tension. It's done so well, and I was on the edge of my seat during a lot of the scenes. The performances were really good as well. The best being, of course, Tom Cruise. The story was also pretty interesting. I really liked the family dynamic as well. And some of the special effects were actually pretty good for the time that it came out. It kind of shocked me. My only complaint is that the story drags a little bit, but that's about it. It's overall a pretty solid movie. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. The last movie in this category is Renfield. This movie is really fun. Nick Cage nailed his performance as Dracula, but I mean, I was kind of expecting that. I also enjoyed Nick Holt's performances as well. The story is a little all over the place, but I still really enjoyed it. There were some pretty funny moments as well. The gore is totally insane, and the CGI blood is a little atrocious, but I honestly think it adds to the campiness of the movie. Now, my major complaint is that I wish it was centered more around Dracula, because I would love to see a movie just about Dracula, played by Nick Cage. It would be so amazing. But overall, this movie is very fun, and I do think you'll have an enjoyable time watching it. So if you want to check it out in theaters, you can. It still might be shown, I don't know. But yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But now we move on to the great category. And the first movie in this category is Top Gun Maverick. Now this was a rewatch, but everything still holds up. I do think this movie is better than the first, and that is because it has more action in it, especially in the third act. And the movie is just really good. I mean, if you haven't watched it yet, please do. Tom Cruise does amazing, and yeah. The next movie in this category is Blazing Saddles. Now, this movie is very funny. It does a great job showing how just plain stupid racism is. Gene Wilder and Cleveland Little are phenomenal in this. Mel Brooks does a great job directing this. I absolutely love how off the rails the ending becomes. It's entirely ridiculous, but amazingly done. And I can see why this is considered one of the best comedies ever, because it's just really good. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now the next movie in this category is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This movie was also really fun. The whole cast is great. Chris Pine is so perfect in this. The CGI is actually really impressive as well. You can tell how much effort they put into the special effects. The score is also pretty good too. The main thing I liked was how rich the world felt. It's filled with so much lore, and they do a good job not using too much exposition to show all the how rich the world is. They did a great job with the story as well. The only big issue I have is, of course, with the pacing. At the beginning is really fast, but as the movie progresses, it kind of fixes itself with the pacing. But I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a sequel. There's a lot they could do with the world, and they can pretty much really do separate stories, so you can have different casts. But yeah, I highly recommend this movie. At first I was gonna give this 4 out of 5 stars, but the main thing I took away from the movie was how good the rewatch value is going to be in the future, because I could totally see myself rewatching this movie. So yeah, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now the next movie in this category is Hairspray. The best part of this movie is John Travolta's performance. He is so good in this. I really enjoyed the music too. I really wish I'd seen this sooner, because I enjoyed this musical a lot. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. The next movie in this category is John Wick Chapter 4. This movie is packed to the brim with action and drama. I'd say that this has the most action out of the 4 movies, and the choreography of the action sequences are really well done. The story, although pretty long, is entertaining from start to finish, but it does drag a bit because it's 3.5 hours long. But as far as the ending goes, I think it's a great conclusion. I just really hope they don't make a 5th movie, because that would just ruin it. But yeah, overall, I think that this is a great finale to the franchise. Hopefully. But yeah, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now the next movie in this category is Chicago. The main thing this movie does so well is the musical numbers. The plot was pretty interesting as well, but I was mainly impressed with the music. I enjoyed all the performances, especially by Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger. My favorite part though is John C. Reilly's musical performance. I've only really seen his more comedic roles, so seeing him in this was a pleasant surprise because it's a little more serious. But overall, this is a pretty decent musical. Highly recommended. But yeah, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next movie in this category is The Gentleman. This movie was phenomenal. My only complaint is that I didn't see enough Colin Farrell, but what we do see of him is really good. Matthew McConaughey is phenomenal as always. I love seeing Charlie Hunnam and Hugh Grant as well. This stacked cast is just amazing. The story kind of goes all over the place, but it still has some structure. And I liked all the little twists, and some of them were actually very unexpected. The action and comedy were both great as well. And overall, this is just a very well-rounded movie, and I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. The last movie in this category is Ever After. This is one of my mom's comfort movies, and so I decided to watch this for the first time with her because it was her birthday. Safe to say, I can see why this is her comfort movie, because this might become one of mine. And dare I say, this is my favorite adaptation of Cinderella. And it's just a very cute movie. Drew Barrymore is of course the best part of the movie, but I do have a huge crush on her, so like I'm very biased, but the other performances were really good as well. I like the changes they made with the Cinderella story. All the side characters were great to see. Overall, this is a very charming movie. Definitely one I would recommend. It's on Disney Plus. But yeah, that concludes the great category. So now we move on to the perfect category. Now, there's only 3 movies in this category, which is kind of a low number for me, but oh well. Hopefully next month's better. But the first movie in this category is Dazed and Confused. Now, I watched this on 4/20 because I want to start a tradition where I do that every year. And this is my 4th favorite movie of all time. So of course I enjoyed it. There really isn't a plot to this movie, and I think that's what makes it like really fun to watch, because it's literally just about a bunch of teens smoking and drinking and having a good time. And that's really it. The rewatch value of this movie is really high, no pun intended. If you haven't watched this already, please do. It's a great movie. And a little fun fact, this movie was filmed at my mom's high school, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I gave this 5 stars because it's just a perfect movie. But the next movie in this category is The Big Lebowski. Now this is the best dang bowling movie ever made. The cast is amazing. Jeff Bridges is phenomenal. Philip Seymour Hoffman gets a little screen time, but he's just phenomenal. Steve Buscemi is also in this. My only complaint is that Steve Buscemi didn't get enough screen time. But that being said, everything else is fantastic. This movie is really creative, and the story may be all over the place, but it's just a good time. I enjoyed every second of this movie, and once again, I highly recommend this movie. Go watch it if you haven't already. But now we get to the last movie, and it's probably the best movie I've seen this month, and that movie is The Departed. Now, I want to start by saying that I'm really stupid, because it wasn't until halfway through the movie when I realized Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio were not the same person. I was so confused for the longest time, but this movie is really good. All the performances were phenomenal. I was invested the entire time. Each character was very well written and used greatly. The music is amazing, and the direction is fantastic. And despite me being stupid, this movie was the best watch this month. And I definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it already. The ending is kind of mind-blowing. But yeah, that concludes this month's video of what I watched in April. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on my thoughts. And also if you haven't seen any of these movies, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, I'm the Entertainment Geek. Keep watching movies. Hope you have a great day. Toodles.